Well, good morning. Again, I'm not going to wait. It's 2:22, and I've been awake for over 2 hours, and I've been out of bed for over half an hour. In any case, this blurb and title I actually wrote over 24 hours ago. Well, maybe it was 24 hours ago. I wrote it. I wrote it yesterday when was up in the night. I knew it was Aristo's turn. But I wrote a blurb and stuff anyway, as if I was going to do a video because I was awake and it was flowing. So anyway, this is the blurb that I wrote before Aristo's video, um, as I just said. It's called Uncovering Scams, Priests, Lawyers, Bankers, and More. Sometimes I can see more clearly than at other times. When I realize that virtually all of our problems are derived from our own ignorance, whether innocent or willful, I can see that not knowing and not acting on what we know sets us up for multiple scams. We are deluded. Someone wrote, "My people perish for lack of knowledge." We are enslaved for the same reason. Knowledge is gained by uncovering the scams, layer upon layer, that made the world what it is, a prison planet. Our job, however, is not merely to uncover the scams, but to become empowered so that we no longer become entrapped by them. The whole purpose of human evolution and awakening is to free ourselves from our own ignorance and denial. We are the ones. Yesterday was an interesting day. Aristo connected with me later than I expected. That seems to be the pattern lately. I'd like to be able to do the videos at least 4 hours earlier than the one we did yesterday, but that's probably never going to happen. Or if it does, it'll be the rare exception. In any case, his video was very inspiring. When he said that the nature of the beast is denial, I mean, that was right up my alley, because I think denial is one of the biggest problems that we face as human beings. We have a tendency to want to deny any new information. We seem to be content in our little prison planet, in our little prison box, in our cage, in our jail cell. And I thought his comment on the addiction article that was printed in Huffington Post, when he said that what the elite want to do is just give us a nicer prison cell, but they still want to maintain control. And that's part of the scam. I went on in the day yesterday to have a fairly long conversation with my lawyer friend who has been learning about the law and learning how to beat the scammers at their own scam. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. The other conversation I had was with the ambassador before he went to bed after a long day. It was our first conversation of the day, and it was at the end of his day. And he had connected with Foster Gamble. Foster Gamble, of course, is the person who, the man and his wife who head the Thrive movement, and they had been working with some lower levels of the family, and I'll talk about that too, about that part of the scam, because that's part of it as well. But they were unveiling. They had a meeting yesterday with scientists from all over the world on what the family is doing to help remedy the situation and to actually bring something substantive that you can all see and that we can all know for sure what is true and what isn't true. You know, it's all being unraveled and uncovered, and it's about uncovering all of the falsehoods that have imprisoned us, because ignorance will always imprison us. When we don't know who we are, when we don't know how things work, we become easily entrapped by our own ignorance. And it's always our ignorance that entraps us, because when we know, we can no longer be entrapped against our will. The more we know and are willing to act on what we know, it becomes more and more difficult for the scams to work. And I put down at priests, lawyers, bankers, and more. Priests were probably the earliest scammers going, because they claimed to represent our gods. And yes, I said gods, plural, because there have been extraterrestrial beings that have been working on Earth with humanity for a very long time, according to what I believe is true. Now, do I know? No, I don't know. But even the Bible and some of our so-called holy books give indications of beings that were giants in the land in those days. For example, that's how the Bible refers to them, giants in the lands. In other words, they were more powerful than the average human, perhaps larger in stature, and held a certain power. But they had a mission to obtain labor by force, which is called slavery, and they enslaved the human family by the priesthood saying, these are the gods, these are the ones that deserve your worship. Worship is a scam. A real creator, a real God, doesn't demand worship, doesn't demand obedience. A real king, if you will, a real sovereign, is a servant, understanding that that which is created must be serviced. And so the creator services the sovereign's creation. That's the way it is with a real, true sovereign. But the priesthood scammed us to thinking that these gods that were the extraterrestrials that came and messed with our DNA and stuff, that these gods were our authority figures. They were the ones that we had to bow down to and obey. And it's not about obedience. We don't become free by obeying rules. And then, in order to maintain the scam that we were less than our creators, less than those that were pretending to be gods, they developed a legal system, laws, and they put laws into effect to control us with rules and regulations. Again, it's about control. It's about enslavement. Everything in our human culture that we've ever known has been about enslavement. It's been about imprisoning us, not necessarily in a jail cell, not necessarily with shackles and chains, but with a mental construct where we are given certain belief systems that keep us limited and keep us deceived and keep us living in denial of what is actually our potential, what is within us, what is our essence. We deny that because we're told to, we're taught to. It's a scam. And the bankers came along with one of the greatest scams of all by inventing money. Money could have been a very useful tool, and it was useful to those that wanted to scam everybody else, to those that wanted to be the special ones, the ones in charge, the rich ones, the ones who called the shots. And so the bankers created money as the way of giving just enough to keep survival going, but not enough to allow thriving. As I said, Foster Gamble finally connected with the family yesterday. He had been working with some levels of the family that are about money, that are about, as Aristotle says, creating a better prison cell, a more a more luxurious prison, but still a prison. And the idea of the part of the family that the ambassador is connected to, and others like him, is to liberate humanity, to actually set us free, which means that they're no longer going to be in charge. They're going to be on a more equal playing field with us. They are going to be, perhaps for a time, servant kings, servant rule. I don't even servant leaders. Let me put it that way, because rulers is the old thing. That's the old scam, that we have to have rulers. No, but we do need, because we have to admit that we're still pretty ignorant. We still need leaders. Leaders have not gone out of style yet, and perhaps never will, as long as there are still beings being born that still need instruction and still need examples being set. And so we will need a leadership, but it must be a servant leadership, a leadership whose intention is not enslavement, but liberation. That's why the war on ignorance. War is not a bad thing. It's been used poorly, like money has been used poorly, like government has been used poorly, like a whole lot of tools that we've been given have been abused and used for purposes that are less than honorable, less than honest, less than desirable for a people that have freedom burning within our very heart and very soul. And so we've had this whole system set up, and yet within the system, and this is what my conversation with the lawyer was driving home to me. The whole system is set up. The truth is there. The actual limitations are there, but they have created them so that they would eliminate the competition. The people that have run the show have put these laws in place and all these rules and priestcrafts and all this whole matrix thing has been put in place so that they could be in charge, the psychopath in us. And I want you to understand that the psychopath is part of us. That is the shadow. That is the part that wants to rule, but it's also the wounded part. And so, as Aristotle said, the nature of the beast, the 666, is not just denial, but it's the whole the false paradigm of master and slave, the whole false paradigm of perpetrator and victim. Once we become powerful enough to see that we don't have to be the victim anymore, and that's what the lawyer was trying to tell me. You can go in and you can use their own rules that they have set up to protect their monopoly. You can use their own rules against them, and it becomes a criminal or a felony violation of their own rules. And when you call them on that, now you are the powerful one. You know that they are breaking their own rules, and they have committed themselves, believe it or not, to obeying their own rules. But you have to know how to apply them. Neil Dyer is partially right then. I mean, I hate the system that anybody is deceived, but we do have to empower ourselves by knowledge, by gaining knowledge and then acting on the knowledge that we gain. It's not just uncovering the scams, as I said in the blurb. It's about empowerment. And that's what Aristotle's series is about, Empowerment 101. It's all about becoming self-actualized. It's all about becoming awakened so that we know how to keep ourselves free, how to get free and then keep ourselves free from falling back into the same old system that just gives us a different jail cell, a different set of things that entrap and enslave us. It's about liberation. And that's what the ambassador has been trying to tell us. That's what those that are waking up in the family are trying to tell us to get us to see Ambassador as the spokesman for the awakening part of the dragon family. And what is the dragon family? Some say, well, that's the devil, that's Lucifer. Well, maybe it is. But that's part of God's creation too. You see, it's all part of the creation, the creator. And the creator, as Aristo pointed out, the creator is going to win, because he's not going to give up on his own creation that he made together with the Queen of Heaven, the goddess, if you will. When they separated themselves, God is not going to give up on this vision that was from the very beginning. The creator is going to hold himself, his own feet to the fire, so to speak, and grow with his creation and learn how to create with his creation, because he made us co-creators. That's something that the animals didn't have. That's something that only sentient beings have, whether they're reptilian, extraterrestrial in nature, or whatever humanoid they may be. We are co-creators with the creator, who is the ultimate essence and prime source of all things. And so we're on this learning curve right now, where we're having a whole shitload of information dumped upon us that can liberate us. And as Aristo said, take it in the doses that you can handle, and learn to transform your fear into love, because we are love. We came from the creator, who ultimately loves us. And that was another point that Aristo was driving home, which I think is really important, that I share that part, that even though I wrote the blurb before and I had inklings of what was coming, Aristo and the ambassador and this attorney friend, who has the first initial of his name is J. These people have given me more ammunition to use to help liberate myself, and to share with you, so that maybe you can grab some of these tools and help liberate yourself, because the whole thing is about honoring the sovereign within us, so that we become the servant kings and the servant queens, to help ourselves and to help others, and that we recognize that life is an interdependent venture. And that's what physical creation is. It's an independence venture, but it's interdependent. We are interdependent on each other, even though we are sovereign within our individual selves. And these are the things that we're learning to put into practice. We're learning them intellectually, but then we're putting them into practice, and we're redeeming the emotional wounds that we've suffered by being in the slavery system, in the matrix, whether we've been the perpetrator or the victim, it doesn't matter. We're learning to overcome that whole false dichotomy. That's the duality that has to end. The false duality between the perpetrator and the victim. Because as long as you have that polarity operating, you're operating in deception, and you're falling for the scam that keeps you a prisoner. And we're about to make the greatest escape from jail that creation has ever witnessed, as we escape from the bondage of our own delusions. Thank you for listening, and namaste.